Fox Body Mustang.
Fox Body Mustang from 93 and 87. Oh, they could never tell us apart.
This is a car that transcends its name. We no longer think of these as Mustangs. No, they're not. They're Fox bodies. What other generation of vehicle became more than its name, became so popular it transcended its identity? And I know transcendence is a name and it's an idea that people throw around a lot. Now really, the transcendent movement or the era of transcendence in American literature was around the time of the Declaration of Independence. Really starting with Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God and ending approximately with Henry David Thoreau with Walden Pond. And that really begins the Romanticist movement, and then we move into Walt Whitman and Leaves of Grass. Walt Whitman, a man so bisexual he wanted to fuck the world. But a Fox Body, in my eyes, is no longer a Mustang. It's part of a larger series, yes. It's a third-generation Mustang, yes. But it can stand on its own. If it were a video game, it would be Street Fighter 2. Or, in the same way Morrowind is to what Elder Scrolls is. Morrowind stands alone. It's highly customizable, and it becomes its own genre, like GoldenEye for the N64, or Unreal Tournament. And a Fox Body Mustang checks every single box of what an enthusiast car should be. It's a front-engine, rear-wheel drive vehicle with 2+2 seating, V8 in the front, and if you want to pay for it, limited slip differential in the back. What are you complaining about? Now, it's probably the least Mustang-looking Mustang that ever Mustanged. Roman's Mustang looks even more like a Mustang than a Fox Body. His SN95, according to him, looks like an E36 if you squint your eyes, tilt your head, and bludgeon yourself with a hammer. His SN95 is the gateway drug to Mustang culture, even though the Fox Body never really challenged it at all that much over the course of its 14-year history. The changes were mostly on the surface, with minimal performance changes beyond the usual engine upgrade. A Fox Body Mustang is more popular than a Mercury Capri, maybe a little bit because of the name initially for early sales, but the Mercury Capri tried to go upmarket, and it is a little bit too weird. Look, a beach towel with a Finding Nemo design shouldn't cost any more than a towel with a generic shell and a starfish design. The parts are mostly the same, and it serves the same function. But what you're paying for is that Disney brand, because brands can elicit something that generic templates can't. Take a Tesla and slap a Chrysler badge on it, and suddenly you're not the envy of the neighborhood anymore. What's funny about all this is that Roman's Red Betty and other SN95s are the popular conception of what a Mustang is in the modern era. The SN95 is the "hey, watch this" of cars. But in their inception, the SN95 was just an upgraded Fox Body with retro aesthetics. In reality, the original Fox Body Mustangs are closer to the classic American standard of what a Mustang should be. The story of the Fox Body Mustang is one of interesting ideas and expectations. Henry Ford II, that idiot, wanted a Mustang that was drastically different from the Mustang II, which was a colossal flop. It kind of was and kind of wasn't. That's a video for another time. But he didn't seem to know how different he really wanted it to be. He didn't know anything. For the most part, he just stood around waving his bullshit like a Native American quilt and hoping his executive would magically whip up something that he could put his own stamp on without Lee Iacocca getting all the credit. So 3 separate design teams were formed, 2 from Dearborn and 1 from Ford's Italian wing. Whoever designed the best Mustang won the competition. In a very literal sense, it was a bunch of teams making the argument to Henry Ford II that their Mustang was best Mustang. Jack Telnack joined one of the Dearborn teams and brought his experience as vice president of design at Ford Europe to the table, essentially throwing Henry Ford's specifications to the wind. The final design was a Frankenstein monster of different elements from previous concepts. The June 1976 Clay Models laid-back grille, the July 1976 quad sealed beam headlights, and so on. Ultimately, this is the design that won. apparently Henry Ford subscribed to the idea of going ugly early, because the rain stops being depressing once you stop convincing yourself that the sun is just over the horizon. And yet, like a prom queen decked out in plastic jewelry from Claire's, it's not a design that really holds up to modern standards of beauty, but it's definitely unique as hell, especially for a Mustang. The headlights aren't round, the rear taillights aren't 3 vertical bars, and it doesn't have the double bubble dash. And it works because it's new, but familiar, like the Grand Tour, and the resurgence of a calm, authoritative British voice as a delivery system for information and jokes. But people really want to crucify the Fox Body for its big brute of a motor, that rampaging bull of an engine. The Windsor. It's old as anthracite and still in demand. Tech-heavy LS tuners loathe the Windsor, because by the numbers, the Windsor block should have been phased out in 1983, and yet it continued for a decade. That iron block pushrod kept going, and it turned the Fox Body into the official car of that shoulder-punching gorilla from high school, coming around like he's your friend now that you're all graduated. But do you know how old the Windsor block V8 is? 1961 is when they designed it. It existed from 1961 until 1993, and even slightly farther than these things are still being refurbished today. The Windsor started as a 221 cubic inch or 3.6 liter V8, and then embiggened to a 260 cubic inch or 4.3 liter V8 in the Falcon Sprint in 1963. I want to guilt you into having sex with me and then have lots of regret. And then the 260 was bored out to the 289, becoming the golden motor for the first generation Mustang. That's the one everybody remembers in the early Mustang, the 289 and the 289 Hypo. Then in 1968, the 289 was stroked to 302 cubic inches or almost 5 liters, and there it stayed all the way into the 90s. The only major change was electronic sequential port fuel injection across all Fox bodies and 302 Windsors in 1986, giving the engine bay the 5-liter intake plenum centerpiece we all know. Windsors have a tragic flaw, though: the 500 horsepower limit. As you tune up these motors, and as they near 500 horsepower, stress cracks rip down the center of the block, right at the center of the V. I mean, give them a break. Ford engineers never intended Windsors to make this type of power. The solution is to reinforce the block with braces that hold it together. Bruce Henn has done this many times. In fact, when we asked him about it, he just pulled out his phone and said, yeah, these are the ones, and here's how it works. It holds it together up top and down underneath by the mains. Okay, let's take a break from Sam's V8 Fox Body for a minute. That's a 1987 model, because I'm going to talk about Tony Rumbles, the 4-banger stanger. Yeah. Remember when all your posts were exaggerated and angry about that turbo 4-cylinder Mustang a few years back? We were there before, many times. Look, here it is. Here's a 4-cylinder Mustang. It didn't even come with a turbo. This is the 2.3-liter naturally aspirated Lima in a Mustang. 90 horsepower. And oh, this is weird, 2 spark plugs per cylinder. Yep, look at that. One on one side, one on the other side. It's all about that better burn, yo. And the 2.3-liter Lima was a more advanced engine than the Windsor. Overhead cam instead of push rods, coil packs instead of a distributor, and it drives like a Tempo. Really? The original 4-banger Stanger was an economy car. But that's just fine for Tony. He saw this one for sale. I think he might have bought it for $1,000. Fixed it up, and now this is his daily. And why not? You can drive a Fox Body and it doesn't eat gas. Turbochargers were available in the SVO Mustang, which turned the Fox Body SVO into a new Scion FRS. Fox Body. Brought to you by, dude, give me your homework. Come on, let me see it. I thought we were friends. Fox Body, the official car of this hat. Fox Body, the car you use to win races against stock Integras and then spam Facebook with fake news articles about your Christian victory. Fox Body, the car for you if you think bringing a baby to a bar is no big deal. 3rd-gen Mustangs, the chariot for gym wankers listening to Seven Nation Army again and again and again on their phone speakers. Fox Body, I have a kid, but I still party. 1987 marked the year of its biggest redesign, with aerodynamic headlights, triangular inboard parking lights, wraparound turn signals, black exterior moldings on most models, and a revamped nose like Jennifer Grey. Automotive executives had a front-wheel drive model in mind, inspired by the Mazda platform, but the rear-wheel drive Mustang stuck around while the front-wheel drive model became the Ford Probe. Of course, the Fox Body Mustang has one of the more vibrant modding communities because the design welcomes it. The 5-liter claims 225 at the crank, but there's still a lot of potential that goes untapped into that engine. 5 liters, the official engine of "there's more in it, I swear." And an unofficial rule is that the greater the untapped potential, the larger the aftermarket community. Hence, this hat. Your average modder might install an aftermarket camshaft to boost valve duration, which has the net benefit of increasing airflow and an end result, you open up some more power. And aftermarket intake manifolds also help with this, in the sense that the bigger ports go hand in hand with the new camshafts. Throw in a 2.5-inch dual exhaust and maybe an Edelbrock intake and a nice set of Raceland coilovers and some cast iron GT40 heads and you're on your way. But people don't stop there, do they? Because there's more in it. Procharger. Because there's nothing about the Fox body that suggests you should stop. Oh, I can quit when I want to. You ever hear of that thought experiment called the ship of Theseus? They also call it the ship of the Theseus paradox. A Greek scholar named Plutarch wrote about the mythical figure of Theseus, who replaced parts of his ship as they decayed piece by piece. By the time he returned from his journey, it was a new ship. Which begs the question, Matt Farah, can a car that had all of its parts replaced still be considered an original object? Penn Jillette put it like this. Say I have the magic wand of Harry Houdini, but I replace the handle, replace the tip, and replace the shaft. Is it still Harry Houdini's wand? And his answer was, it is if no one else has the other stuff. It's a strange philosophical read on the modding community as a whole. How much can you mod your car before it stops becoming that make and model? How much can you replace in a Fox Body Mustang before you've built yourself a completely new car? But maybe that's the point of the Fox Body. The Fox Body Mustang is structuralism in practice. It's a car with a personality to it, but it's also the sum total of its parts and its system and the driver. Anything extra is what the driver brings to it through personal experiences, opinions, ideologies that shape what a Fox Body is to them. You can sum up a Fox Body Mustang by placing it in opposition to other Mustangs of other generations. In much the same way, you can sum up the story of The Giver by saying, it's like Mad Max won a Newbery Medal. So here's my personal opinion after all of this. Okay. The Fox Body is the best and worst car for enthusiasts. It's the worst car because of its machinery. It's antiquated, it's backwards, even by 1980 standards. It clings to prejudiced solid axles and tribal low revving motors and bigoted non-adjustable lift and duration cam profiles. And yet, when it all comes together, we don't care because the execution is brilliant. Fox bodies are fun. It's like DMX's Where the Hood At. Where the Hood At is the best and worst song. Where the Hood At's first verse is a homophobic rant. Yeah, go listen to it. Go listen to Where the Hood At. Each line is anti-gay, anti-trans, and sad. But we forgive and forget Where the Hood At because it's the best hype song ever written. The second you control understeer into that bumping chorus, it's arm day. Yeah, curls. Fox bodies are amazing because time heals reputations.
It's a bridge too far, trying to design this car. Henry Ford decided he wanted something new and way different from what was called Mustang 2. Mustang 2. Mustang